Okay, my name is Asep Nur Fauzi. I'm from English department. Today, I present the journal titled "Storytelling to Improve Student Speaking Skill" by Mukmina Tunzuriah from Hashim Ashri University, Tebedong, Jombang. In this journal, this researcher uh, research about how to improve the student speaking skill using storytelling. As you know, the social human, people always interact and communicate each other. The first way to do the interaction and communication by the speaking. In this case, the people express their idea and communicate what they want orally. In Hashim Ashari has a special program called an intensive program of foreign language consisting of Arabic and English language. This program is for all new students. The student of the first and second semester, they enter today in English program and today in Arabic program every week. Meanwhile, the intensive English program itself has some objective, the one of which is to make the student able to speak English. However, the previous education background student of Hashim Ashri has student Islamic boarding school where they learn English very little. Most of them are still beginner in learning English. That's why they find that speaking English is difficult. Dealing with this, the research applied storytelling in speaking class of Class N of intensive English program. The novelty of the research compared to the previous studies was that the student retold the content of the reading text in their module by using their own word. The research bed the main purpose to know whether or not storytelling could improve speaking skill of the student class N in the second semester in of intensive English program of Hashim Ashri University, Tebedong, Jombang, in academic year of 2016 to 2017, describing the lecture activity, the student activity, and the student response during the implementation of storytelling in speaking class of class N of intensive English program became the specific purpose. Okay, for the previous study, several previous studies have been conducted by the government researchers telling about the use of the storytelling in teaching English, like Ahad and Indrawan, but in study titled Improving the Student English Speaking Competence Through Storytelling. Storytelling implemented in teaching speaking could improve the student fluency, grammar, pronouns, vocabulary, and content. Next, by the study entitled Use the Storytelling Method to Develop Spoken English Skill, found that storytelling technique has great effect on the student learning of English language. Samantari, 2014, at page 44. Then the study entitled A Storytelling Approach to Teaching English to Young EFL Irania Learner by Kalarin and Hasemian in 2015 at 221 explained that storytelling approach was effective to teach vocabulary. And Julia, 2015 at page 224 in the study entitled Telling Tale Using Storytelling to Teach EFL Kindergarten Student in Taiwan, explained that there was an improvement on the teaching and learning quality and student enjoyment when the storytelling was implemented. It was followed by the student entitled Using Storytelling Technique to Improve English Speaking Skill of Primary School Student by Fikria. That present, the student English speaking skill was effectively improved through storytelling. So, about the speaking. Speaking is the way people to express and communicate idea to other orally. According to Gerd and Hans in a result 2020 at page 127, speaking is speak or utterance product by speaker with an intention being brown, and then the listener process the saying in order to know the speaker intention. Irawati 2 defines speaking as the activity to produce saying in form of word and sentence orally in order to communicate with others. Meanwhile, Korasazadeh states that speaking need not only the learner understand about the way to produce the linguistic competence such as grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary, but also comprehends about sociolinguistic competence such as when, why, and how to speak. Bahadorfar and Omidfar says that speaking skill can be categorized as the good speaking skill when the listener can understand the word product by the speaker. Additionally, Ur in Akhak and in Darwan says that the successful speaking activity that characteristic as the follow. First, the language learner talk so much. Second, all the participants of speaking activity get the opportunity to. Third, the language learner are highly motivated and have interest in speaking. And the last, the language product at the acceptable level. So, the next is about the storytelling. Storytelling is to retell the story having the read or heard by using storytelling own word based on their understanding about the story. According to Zeru and Sabari in Akhak and in Rawan, storytelling is an activity involving the interact between storytelling and audience and between an individual and the listener in certain level. Next, Safari and was defines storytelling as the way of the student to retell story in the different word construction after being told the story by the teacher. Okay, the next research method. The research was collaborating action research in consisting of four steps. They were planning, implementing, observing, and reflecting. The research collaborated with the collaborator. The research was the lecture of intensive English program in class N. Meanwhile, the collaborator was another lecture intensive English program from other class. Collaborator was give a lesson plan or speaking class by using storytelling method for class N. The collaborator was also given observation sheet in the form of field note to report the lecture activity, student activity, and student response during the lecture of speaking using storytelling method in class N. The cycle of the research consisted two cycles and which constrained the meeting of each cycle. Meanwhile, the subject of the research were 223 students of the class N in the second semester English intensive program of Hashim Ashri University, Tebuireng Jomblang in academic years of 2016 to 2017. Actually, class N consisting of 43 students, but only 23 students who always joined the class without being student. So, technique of collecting data and data analysis. Observation and speaking test become the technique of collecting data used in the research. The collaborator did the observation by writing everything happened in the class on the field note every meeting of the circle. Then the speaking test was held in the following meeting after every circle had finished. There were two technique and data analysis of the researcher. By the descriptive analysis and static analysis, the observation data written by the collaborator were analyzed by using descriptive analysis to know the lecture activity, the student activity, and student response. During the lecture, taught speaking by using storytelling in the class, then to know the improvement of the student speaking skill and the percentage of the student who passed the passing grade, and the researcher used statistical analysis. In doing the statistical analysis, the researcher compared the number of the student getting minimal the criterion score of 4 of every speaking aspect in pretest, post-test 1 and post-test 2 to know the improve the student speaking skill. The criteria success of this researcher itself was when 75% of the student got the criterion score of 4 of every speaking aspect as the passing grade. The scoring numeric speaking skill using research was adapted from the speaking rubric of Maulani at 23 in 2013 at page 35. The table below presents the scoring rubric speaking aspect. There are 5 criteria. In 5 criteria have focus and comprehension, vocabulary and grammar, fluency and pronunciation in every level. in criteria, in high in 5 and low to 1 criteria. And for the next, finding and discussion. In circle 1, the circle consists two meetings. They are held on February in 19 and February in 22 on 2017. Meanwhile, postage of circle 1 has held in February in 25 on 2017. Okay, in lecture activity, in lecture activity, actually what the lecturer did the first meeting and the second meeting, circle 1 was the same. After checking the attendance list, she told the student about how the researchers would handle the class for the meeting. It was about how storytelling would be applied. Then she did what she had written in her lesson plan about teaching speaking by using storytelling method. Below are the steps of storytelling that the lecturer did. The lecturer asked the student sit the group 5. 2. The lecturer got the student pay attention to reading text their module while she was reading and translating the reading text. Third, the lecturer had the student discuss about the content of the reading text by using their own word in 7 minutes. Fourth, the lecturer asked every group to present their discuss result their 3 minutes. And 5, the lecturer gave a review of the presentation done by the student dealing with the speaking aspect. Okay, the next, a student activity. Since the first meeting of the class, the student joined the class always followed the lecture instruction. Then were the description of the student activity relating to the story method applied by the lecture. The first, the student sit in group 5. The student pay attention of the model was lecture, reading, translation, and reading text. Students discuss about content of the reading text by using their own word and 7 minutes. The representative of the group present their discuss result 3 minutes. The student listen and pay attention and review given by the lecture. Okay, and how about the student response? Students were little surprised when they asked their retell of the content of the story in front of the class on first meeting. It was this because at the first semester they also got the explanation for the lecture. Next, 3 was one of the group representative who was very nervous when telling the content of the reading text in the front of the class. It made him forget some word to say. Then he was replaced the other member. Meanwhile, most the students were very noisy in the second meeting because they did not finish making the story of the content. The reading text, they felt that their time was not enough. Almost all of them laughed when the lecturer correct the pronunciation. They found a new word with their unfamiliar pronunciation in reading text. Okay, and the recycle 2. The cycle consisting two meetings. They were held February 26 and March on 4 on 2017. Meanwhile, the fastest circle was held March 5 on 2017. And to circle 2, the lecture activity, student activity, and the student response have same in a circle 1, but in the circle 2 the students were very respectful to the lecture discussion about extended time, all of them using their time seriously. Their discuss of the content of the reading text have just read and translated by the lecturer with high motivation. There was no complaint anymore with the circle. They saw their interest in the speaking class by giving a clap to the group having presented their discussion result. And the result speaking skill, the following table present of the result of speaking test in pre-test, post-test 1 and post-test 2. The result speaking test like speaking aspect in comprehension, fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. In pre-test, post-test 1 and post-test 2, the student have a growing point in pre-test, little have little score, but in post-test and post-test 2 the score is growing to be better. And based on the table, it can be seen that the percentage of the passing grade of the each speaking aspect in post 1 was less than 75%, so that it could be said the circle 1 was unsuccessfully. Meanwhile, the presentation of the student passing grade is speaking aspect in post test 2 could reach 75%. It means that circle 2 was considered successful. The student speaking skill got improved at in all aspects of the speaking, such as comprehension, fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. So, the last conclusion and suggestion. Based on the result of the research board, the conclusion can be drawn as the follow. First, the storytelling could improve speaking skills students of class N in second semester of intensive English program of Hashim Ashri University Tubirang Jombang in the academic year 2016 to 2017. Second, the lecture activity in cycle 1 of the student and cycle 2 were generally the same theme. She did what she wrote her lesson plan, then she was walking around the class when the discussion session while asking the name of the student in every group. There was also answering the student question about vocabulary and pronunciation in activity. In circle 2, she extended the time for the discussion. The time discussion became 12 minutes. It was done because some students complained about not having enough time for the discuss. Third, the student activity were good progression for circle 1 and to circle 2. They followed what lecture instruction. When circle 1 they complained about not having enough time discuss, it didn't happen in circle 2 because they already addition time for the lecture, the student generally always asked the lecturer about the vocabulary and the pronunciation of the word and what they did not. And the last, the student response also were a little bit different between circle 1 and circle 2. In circle 1, most of them were little surprised when they were asked and read the content of the reading text in their module. It was because they were used getting explanation without being asked to speaking in front of the class about content and the reading text they had in their model in circle 2. They were highly motivated to their discuss and interest in the topic given. They give their code to the group have presented their discourse of result. Okay, that's all for our presentation about this journal by Imuk Minatul Juriyah of from Hasin Asri University Tubirang Jombang. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.